Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and welcome back to the Brandon Warne Poorly Produced Podcast Project. I believe we're on episode 9, recording for the first time since, I believe, last Thursday. And I promised yesterday to address some of my feelings about the Twins' payroll as illustrated with the Phil Miller column in the Star Tribune yesterday, about how the Twins were basically saying, don't expect a whole lot in terms of free agent dollars being spent this offseason and that kind of thing, and that the biggest off-season acquisition may be the new manager, which is a strange bit of PR, but it's something nevertheless, I guess, for Twins fans to chew on as they wait for free agency in the offseason to open up. My genuine hope, and this is something I addressed when I basically said I understand why payroll bobos or people that are upset about the payroll are going to attack this and drive this into the ground, is because with Joe Mauer taking up an increasingly large percentage of the payroll as it's driven down, those people are going to intensely fight against what's going on. And I'm not saying it's right. I get where the Twins are on the win curve. I get where the Twins are development-wise. And if you look at the top 10 players for the Twins this last year by salary, it's not pretty. Joe Mauer, Ricky Nolasco, Kendry Morales are the top 3. That's basically $40 million of nothing. Phil Hughes had a nice season. Josh Willingham didn't do much. Kevin Correa didn't do much. Mike Pelfrey was very, very bad, and then he was injured. Glenn Perkins had a decent season. He struggled on the stretch, but was injured. And Jared Burton didn't have a good season. And Kurt Suzuki had a nice season, but the Twins turned around and reinvested into him too. But if you look at that list of 10 players, that's probably at least half or well over half of the salaries. Actually, it has to be. That's probably 65% of Twin salaries handed out to players who provided them with very little in terms of quality or quantity of play. So if the Twins, on the basis of that, are choosing not to invest more money into the ball club, it's sort of an introspective look at things where, gee, we didn't spend money well when we had the chance to spend it, but that's not really something that's going to fly in the eye of fans. Now, again, I totally understand the idea that the Twins like guys at every position, and they think they're close with pretty much every position in terms of prospects coming up and filling that out. But at the same time, it would be silly to ignore the value that guys like Phil Hughes and Kurt Suzuki had on this team this season, and just kind of decide not to attack the free agent market with any sort of plan of action. Now, there's no indication necessarily that's true. It's just that it seems that the Twins have poured a big cold bucket of water on everybody's off-season plans. And my hope is, that they're lying in the weeds, that they want to play possum, and that maybe they'll be involved for a decent starting pitcher, maybe an outfielder like Colby Rasmus, who I kind of got on my list, or something even crazier like John Lester, James Shields, Russell Martin, who I've banged the drum for quite loudly over the last week or so. But it doesn't appear that that's really on the Twins' radar. And I think that's frustrating because of the way the Twins have gone about free agency. And if the idea was to sign Ricky Nolasco to make the fans happy and to spend a lot of money, that's not a good idea either. But I think the Twins fans would respect just knowing that the Twins are out there trying, and it kind of is a mixed signal, because Terry Ryan said that if there's a good player out there, we'll be trying, but then this comes out that the Twins probably aren't going to have a lot of money to spend, and so it's kind of a mixed signal, and I get that, but I think it would be kind of foolish to fall back on the idea that the Twins need to build this entire thing from within. Even Kansas City, who is kind of the model franchise for the Twins right now, given the division and the league, and that Kansas City more or less built from the ground up, is that even Kansas City had to go do something crazy, and that was trade for James Shields. Now, statistically, James Shields' success probably could have been duplicated in a much cheaper way, based on the Kansas City outfield defense and a lot of different things. So it's not like they really needed to mortgage the future and trade Will Myers and Jake Odorizzi. And they got Wade Davis too, but he's going to make a lot of money for a reliever based on the contract he signed with Tampa Bay. But it's just, it kind of comes back to the Twins' way of doing things. And you don't want to see the Twins sign another Kevin Correa this offseason, another Mike Pelfrey, or lay so far in the weeds that the only players left are the ones picked over, like the Livan Hernandezes and the Sidney Ponsones and the Ramon Ortizes of the world. So I genuinely hope, but I do not know if it's the case, that the Twins are laying in the weeds here. They're going to have to be creative. I think it would be wise to, and this is where it'll get kind of crazy, and I'll do an off-season blueprint. In fact, I think I'm probably going to do 2 or 3. And I'll probably do a super aggressive one, a more moderate one, and then a low end, which is sad to say, probably what I think the Twins will do, one. But aggressively speaking, I think the Twins would do fine if they non-tendered or didn't bring back Jared Burton, Anthony Swarzak, and Brian Dunsing. And I kind of got into a battle with people on Twitter last night about how bad the bullpen was. I mean, they had the worst strikeout rate in baseball. They were bottom 10 in ERA, FIP, xFIP, pretty much every measure that matters for a bullpen. And the argument against it was overuse. But, I mean, August was even worse than September. And July was okay. But at the same time, they threw 50 fewer innings than last year, 2013 that is. In 2013, the bullpen was actually a strength. It was actually quite good. And it's something that will need to be addressed. Now, there are a lot of good minor leaguers coming up through the system that will feature prominently in this bullpen moving forward. But I think by non-tendering those guys, you can open up a few spots for the guys who don't make the rotation. I think you can generate some enthusiasm by putting Trevor May and Alex Meyer in the bullpen. If you shut YouTube off, pull your earbuds out, pull your hair out, never talk to me or listen to me again, I'll understand. But I think basically what you do, I still think you got to add a starting pitcher. And I still think you got to put Tommy Malone on the back end of your rotation on the basis of how much money he's due. Because I think in arbitration he's going to get like $2-some-odd million. And in that sense, he's not really worth being a lefty out of the bullpen. Even if he sees an increase in velocity, he's probably not going to be that much of an asset out there. So I think you give Malone probably the number 5 spot. You sign a starter for the number 4 spot. And you roll with Hughes, Nolasco, and Gibson up top. That way Alex Meyer can get his feet wet in the big leagues without extraordinary expectations. You can let Trevor May figure out some of his control woes. And then if somebody up top produces enough that you can trade them, or somebody gets hurt, you move somebody up. You have a lot of flexibility where you didn't have that in the first place. And at the same time, you're paying guys the major league minimum to be probably pretty good relievers. And the legitimate worry with Meyer and May is that their future lies in the bullpen. And so you can find out what kind of bullpen pitchers they are, get them ready for that if that's going to be the case. But you don't pigeonhole them into that role or that spot. But it's a good way to get their feet wet for the big leagues and get them ready. But I don't necessarily know either if that's something the Twins will do. It's just if money really is an issue, and I sincerely hope it's not, because of what's always been the message regarding Joe Mauer's contract not being something that's going to cause the Twins from trying to, or prevent the Twins from trying to improve. If money issues are legitimately a problem, these are some easy ways to fix those problems from within. So, I'm trying to think of how I want to wrap this up here. It's just, I still don't think the Twins' payroll argument in terms of success is a particularly good argument. I don't think adding payroll guarantees success. But at the same time, you look at this team and how good they were this season offensively, and you have to hedge against fall-offs from guys like Kenny Vargas, Danny Santana, Eduardo Escobar, Trevor Plouffe. And you can hedge from within on the basis of Joe Mauer improving, playing better than he did this season. Oswaldo Arcia should be a much better player next year. So you can hedge some of that from within. But at the same time, I'm trying to think of where I want to go with this here. You can't ignore bringing in external help at the expense of letting the kids play. I know the fans want to see the kids play, but you've already publicly said there won't be any Byron Buxton or Miguel Sano this season, basically barring a miracle. And at the same time, your duty is to give the fans something to watch. I think bringing in a couple veterans and Brandon McCarthy, Rasmus, again, if you can get those guys to come to Minnesota, you can make this an 80-win team or a 78-win team pretty easily. And I think that should be the goal, because I don't think losing 90 games again this season does anything for anybody. I think from a PR standpoint, fans are so fed up, and this is what I've observed both in the media and outside of the media, that 90-loss barrier, even if it's exactly 90 losses this season, fans will pack it in even more than they already have. And I'm not sure how much more can happen, because even last year, there was virtually no interaction, negative. I mean, anything that comes out on the Star Tribune, you read the comments, and it's extraordinarily negative. There's not a positive comment in sight. So I think you got to do something, and bringing in the vets like Kevin Correa just aren't going to move the needle enough. It's not helpful. If that's the plan, just forget it and just go with the kids, and that's fine. But I still think going with the kids is going to be a frustrating plan for everybody involved. So, again, I'm not advocating signing John Lester for $25 million a year in 7 years. But I think there's some sensible free agent decisions that can be made that can overhaul the team in a meaningful manner that doesn't, one, sabotage the future, or two, sabotage the budget in terms of that future. So that's about all I got for you. We're about a minute shorter than usual. I want to thank you for listening, and hopefully have something up for you tomorrow.